Hey guys, UDG here, back with another Unreal Engine 4 Recreate tutorial episode from our Ghost Recon Wildlands drone tutorial series. In this episode, we're going to be continuing on from where we left, which was getting our UI done for our Rangefinder, as well as the roll system, and having all of our flight working, as well as our night vision working. Now, in this episode, we will be finishing off on some more UI, so we'll be getting some of our drone system mechanics done, and then we'll be implementing that with the UI as well. I'm potentially getting a little bit more done in this episode, we'll see. I think the battery will probably take up the majority of it, but we might get lucky. Anyway, the first thing you want to do is you're going to come into our event graph, you're going to get our sequencer, drag off, create a branch, and then we're going to need to add a couple things from that branch. The first one being a variable that we're going to make. So we're going to make a drone battery variable, and it's going to be of an integer type. We'll compile that one, and then let's see, by default this is going to be set to 60. Okay, so we're gonna make another variable. We'll call this one is drone active ? And this one's gonna need to be a boolean. So we'll set that to a boolean and compile it. We'll then drag that one out onto our condition. And then from true, we're gonna go ahead and drag out. We're gonna get another branch. And this time we're going to get our drone battery. And then we're gonna drag out from that. We're gonna go greater than and then we'll leave that as its default number of 0. So what that does is it gets the drone battery and it checks to see if it's greater than 0, meaning that it has some charge. If it is greater than 0, then we will need to continue on. So we're again going to drag out from true. And then we'll add a delay. We're going to set this to 1 so that it's got... so we're going to leave this delay as 0.2. But if you want to make the delay bigger, say 1, that means that every second it'll minus 1 from the drone battery integer, which is what we're about to set up here. So we go minus to get decrement int, and then we'll connect our drone battery to it. Now what this does is basically just saves us a node. So by having that, we can subtract 1 from the specified value and set it. Specified value in this case being the drone battery. It just saves us having to go drone battery and then go -1 integer and then set it. We just get to save a little bit, so it makes it run a tiny bit quicker. Then we're going to get another branch though. We're going to go get drone battery, drag out again. We're going to this time go ahead and go, I think it's, less than equal to, then we'll connect that. Now this is just checking to see if our battery has any charge in it, and if it doesn't have any charge in it, then we're going to go ahead and destroy it. I'm just double checking to make sure that it's working so far. It looks good. Okay, so now that we've got all of this set up, we now need to destroy our drone. So we already have that function set up. We made this earlier. We're going to go ahead and go switch back to play character. And then now that we've got all that, it'll play all of this code instead of us having to redo it, which should be nice and handy. We're now going to go ahead and just comment on this so we know what it is later on. And we're going to call this, let's go checks to see if drone is... actually, you know what? We don't need this. We can just go ahead and make it battery system. I was gonna write like kind of what or describe what the function does, but there's no point. You can just look at it. It's pretty basic. Drone battery is 60. Yep. Okay. If you want to increase your drone battery, you can, but for testing purposes, I'm gonna make it 10, just so we can have it decrement really quick and see. So you'll notice very shortly here it should destroy. Flying around, and should have broken by now. I went wrong there. Let's see. Is drone active? Oh, okay. We've never set drone to active, so it's getting stuck at that branch. So we're gonna have to go ahead and set drone active. Let me just double check where this goes. I'm pretty sure it should be begin play. Okay, yes, I was right. So we're going to come up here where we made our event begin play, set our widget in the viewport earlier. We're going to drag out our is drone active and set it. Make sure we set the little tick box to true. But now that we've got that, it should play the rest of the code now. So we can go ahead and compile, save, and come back into our play menu thing and then launch it. You'll see now that I can fly around and very quickly it'll drop me out of my camera because I ran out of battery. The reason I did so quick there is because I have drone battery set to 10. By default, we're going to have it 60. Again, if you would increase that, you can increase that number, or you can just increase the duration, as I said earlier. But for testing purposes, I'm going to leave it pretty short, so then I can have enough time to test stuff, but it's not too long, so I can still see that the battery system is working. But now we're going to actually go ahead and set up the UI for the battery. So as you can see here, I've gone back into our WB drone HUD. I've gone ahead and dragged in an image box, and then I've anchored that. I haven't anchored it just yet, there we go. Now I've anchored it to the bottom middle. And I'm going to reset the position and align it to 0.5 by 0.5, just so I center it. Actually, we're not doing that, sorry. We're just gonna go ahead and set it to -260 on position X and position Y, -180. I've actually done that wrong, I'm pretty sure. No, that's right, never mind. And then we're gonna just resize it. Now, you can go ahead and resize this if you want, or you can use your own image, but I've got an image down below in the description, so you can go click on the link below to download this one that I'm using. And you can continue to follow along with me. You're more than welcome to use it for any of your games, I'm not bothered by that. It's just a quick little thing that I made in Photoshop, but as you can see there, that's the uncharged one and that's the charged one. It's nothing fancy, it's very basic. And we're going to go ahead and drag and drop both of those two textures in. And you can see here, this is the transparent one, so it's uncharged, and then the other one is charged, again, transparent. So now we need to go ahead and actually add that to the image. So we're going to come in here, we're going to go, where is it? We're going to come up to style and then background image and fill image. And then going to click on the image. Now for the first one, we're going to put in the flat battery icon. And the second one, we're going to put in the charged battery icon. And that has the default image size already there. Okay, so now you can see when I move this percent bar up, you can see it now moves the percent bar in the battery. If you're wondering how it does that, it's basically just getting a percentage of one image and overlapping it on top of the other, so it makes it look like it's loading. You'll notice now that I've got it set to 0.28 and there's only a tiny little bit of that battery charge coming out. And that's because the way that the percent works is it goes all the way from the left of the image all the way to the right. It doesn't start at that point that I want it. So to make it start at that point where I want it, we're going to do something. First I'm going to change it to right to left so it's coming out the right way. But we're also going to come down to border padding. And then on the X value, I'm going to set it to 14 in a second. There we go. So now when I move it, pretty much straight away at 0.09, which is like next to nothing, our battery comes out. And then it comes all the way to the end, and it gets pretty close to the end. It's not perfect. You can try and line it up better if you want. But now that we've got that set up, we now need to get the actual binding for the code working. So, oh, pardon me. Actually, no, we missed one thing. We're going to set the fill color and opacity to white. Sometimes that will change the color. I don't think it should do it here, but sometimes people have had issues with it where it will. I know I have, so we'll change that to white so it doesn't affect it. Now we'll go ahead and go create binding on our percent. And then we will, let me just double check. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drag this return node out so we have some space to work with. This should be pretty simple. So we'll drag out, we'll go cast to, and then we'll get our drone. We need to get a reference for it, so we're going to get the player pawn. And then once we get the player pawn, we will then go ahead and go from as BP drone and drag that one out. And then we'll get the drone battery. And then we'll drag out again. Pardon me. And then, actually we need that as a float, don't we? Yeah, so we'll go ahead and not drag out from it, we'll just go dash, and then we'll find the float divided by float. We will connect them together, and then it will convert it to an integer for us. Now, we're going to divide this number by 60. The reason we divide that by 60 is because you see here, for my drone battery, I use 60 already. And we have to divide it by 60 to create a decimal number. The reason we have to use a decimal number is because if I come back here to my designer, you'll see under percent, by default it is set to 1, that's the maximum it can be. And if we then lower it, it goes from 1 all the way down to 0. So it has to be a decimal number or else it will always be full. And you'll never actually see the percent bar move on it. So we have to divide it by itself. So say your battery percentage, so your default battery charge is 100, you'd have to divide that by 100, or if you had it 1000, you divide it by 1000, and so on, so on. As long as you divide it by the default of itself, it will always work. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect that to the return value now, which is the final step, and now it's going to neaten it up a little bit, make it not too big. And we'll compile, save that, we'll come into our play menu again, press play, and we'll go into our drone zone. You can see now the battery is now ticking down, and it's doing it really quickly again. I've just got it like this for testing purposes. You would obviously have it longer for your game and change some of the settings. But as you can see, it's working exactly how we want, and as the battery runs out there, our drone is destroyed. And now we can go ahead, and we can go back into our drone, and you can see it's now full charge. We can fly around, we can do our thing, and then we can wait for the battery to tick down, or we can go ahead and just call it there. Anyway guys, that is it for this episode. So if you want to see any other content similar to this, let me know down below in the comments if there's a game mechanic that you specifically want to see. But other than that, that's it for this episode. So go ahead and check out my next episode where I make the signal system so that as you get further and further away from your character, the signal will get worse and worse, and then it will complete. And then after you're outside of the signal range for a certain amount of time, your drone will be destroyed. Anyway guys, that's all for this episode. See ya!